and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So 2 days ago, I did a morning live stream covering a town hall that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was hosting in her district. Mind you, it wasn't a very crowded town hall, which really says a lot about the the House representative in regards to how she was talking about Biden's and Vice President Harris's administration, the policies they're working on. And we played the video where she was interrupted, according to her, rudely interrupted at a Q&A session in which, activists and people who were questioning her, her recent support with the Ukraine war, why she was giving all this money out, and how they wanted to, again, call her out for her hypocrisy here and there, right? And so there's been a lot of people commenting on it. Now, of course, the activists did bring up the name of Tulsi Gabbard, and since then, a lot of the larger social media platforms, most notably TYT and Kyle Kalinske, were kind of in a super fast rush to defend AOC. But I want to point out AOC is yet to show back up on TYT or any of these other independent media networks, so she only shows up on, again, corporate media. But I want to read this tweet out that Glenn Greenwald posted, because AOC was saying that she was reading a letter from a deaf constituent, which apparently was not the case, as Jose Vega actually was on Revolutionary Blackout Network and said that she was reading an email, a letter, but we'll go more into that later. AOC, this was her in 2020, on Antifa activists menacing politicians in public. Activists should be impolite. The whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. AOC last night to protesters confronting her for funding Biden's proxy war. I won't answer you. You're being rude. So what do we mean? Well, here, let's play this video again for our audience in case you have not seen it.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because there are funding war hawks. Okay, you originally voted, you ran as an outsider, yet you've been voting to start this war in Ukraine. You're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice. I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party. Will you do that? Yes or no? Okay, simple. Are you going to stop nuclear war? Yes or no? There is no line, because this is bullshit. None of this matters if we're all dead. None of it. You know that. Then let's take it up right now, because this is the only thing that matters. This is the only thing that matters right now. We could be in a nuclear war at any minute, and you continue to fund it. That's what's going on. Why not right now? You're the liar here. Nobody has held you accountable. That's what's happening. And it is time for you to stand up and realize that what you've been saying has been lies. Let your conscience come through for once.
All right, and we're going to stop there because that's where the video ends. But there's a lot to unpack there. And what I want our audience to understand is that there's a lot of angry people in America right now. Our politicians have effectively abandoned us. And look, somehow our Congress is able to crap out a buttload of money for Ukraine. But as we have covered on this show, and even on yesterday's show when I was co-hosting with Lainey Peterson, you have Americans being evicted from their homes and apartments right now. You have small businesses being shut down. And look, we've said it before, but there's a lack of safe, clean drinking water in America. And so the fact that the news and social media and blue check mark people and pundits are saying, hey, we need to do more money for Ukraine, a lot of Americans are wondering, well, where's our bailout? Where's our support? How come when we want something, our politicians, both Democrat and Republican, say that's a bridge too far, it's too complicated, it's too expensive, we don't have time to do it, it'll be gridlock. But yet when it comes down to war, we get nothing in return. Lauren, I want to get your thoughts real quick.
I mean, I agree with all of that. I do think that, like I was telling you earlier, I think that some of the media response right now and the focus on Ukrainian Nazis is maybe a little bit more of a exaggeration, or it's not what we should be angry about. Like, it's like, we should not be, because like Putin is like, oh, we have to denazify Ukraine. It's like, okay, great. You can do that without declaring war and killing civilians. You can go into the places you know there are Nazis and get rid of them there. You don't have to, like, you know, be bombing hospitals. So the fact that like the argument was that like you're giving money to Ukrainian Nazis seems a little bit far-fetched to me, but everything else that he said I agree with, because we are continuing to fund a war that, one, we shouldn't have a bone in that graveyard, you know, like we should be focusing more on, again, our water situation here, on getting people housed, because, like, you know, the landlords are not giving anyone any kind of leeway, because businesses are getting shut down, because we're still reeling from, you know, 2 years of a pandemic. And the fact that we are continuing to send money to fund a war that, like, it's well away from us right now because of very, very questionable resources and information is really disturbing. So he was right about pretty much everything. I agree with him on almost every single thing that he just said there, except for, again, I don't think that the focus should be on Ukrainian Nazis, because I mean, there are Nazis in Ukraine. I'm sure there are Nazis here. Like, we never managed to fully weed out that garden. Like, they're everywhere, and I don't think that funding the war in Ukraine is funding them specifically, but I don't think we should be funding the war in Ukraine like this when we have so much other things here that we need to take care of.
Right. And the thing is, look, there's been a lot of people, especially on a lot of AOC's, you know, defenders, you know, trying to defend her honor, or saying this was rude or this was a setup, to actually say, hey, look, Tulsi Gabbard's a private citizen. And the thing is, you know, and that's one of the attacks that people are doing right now. But what I find interesting, though, and a lot of people need to realize, is that AOC is part of the Democratic Party. This is a fact, right? But something that's being ignored about the conflict in Ukraine, and we actually talked about this on Hardlands Media in the early days when the invasion happened, and that is, I was reading a report from a Twitter account called Unusual Whales, is also playing a video also in regards to dealing with stock trades, and how you had Democratic and Republican politicians cash in big in stocks before the war that were tied to the military-industrial complex and big oil. One thing that's being ignored is that even before the invasion took place, starting from 2014 and even before then, you have a lot of politicians and their family members, Democrat and Republican, cashing in and earning huge amounts of investment into that region in Ukraine. And the thing is, that's something that very few people have talked about, because that's another side. Who benefits from this war? Who benefits from ongoing conflict? Who benefits, again, with the military-industrial complex and the oil lobby group? And that is the politicians that are connected to big oil, as well as the military-industrial complex. But one thing that should concern us, too, is that especially when this video came out, the gentleman who did post the video, Jose Vega, here's his social media account. The day he did that, his Twitter account got taken down. He was in Twitter jail, you know, and he went on to say, I'm out of Twitter jail now. Will AOC do the morally correcting and stop voting yes to sending money to Ukraine? You and I both know this is not what you set out to do in Congress. You could change course now, take a real stand, and put an end to this madness. Okay. And the thing is, he was also on Revolutionary Blackout Network, and he went on to state that he wasn't interrupting. That was a Q&A session, and she was reading, and I hope that everyone can hear me out clearly when I say this. She was reading a letter from a deaf constituent, but apparently AOC was saying that there was a deaf person there who was asking a question. Apparently that wasn't the case. You could check out his interview on Revolutionary Blackout Network. But now we're getting like a quick defense, because obviously that video in question really shined a light on how AOC once said, hey, you got to raise the ruckus. You got to make politicians uncomfortable. I think AOC has to realize that she's a politician, and, you know, hey, she's open to the same amount of criticism too.
Well, it makes me really concerned that she couldn't answer the damn question. Like, are you going to vote against nuclear war? And she wouldn't answer that. Just like, even if you're being like, if you're like, oh, you're being super rude right now, it's like, just answer the question. Are you going to vote against nuclear war? The answer should be, obviously, I'm going to vote against it. And
Agreed.
I mean, I don't know why she couldn't answer that question, just because she felt like a little bit attacked. He wasn't even like going toward, he wasn't moving forwards. He was standing there. Like
he was standing.
He was not doing, far away from her. He wasn't doing anything threatening. He was just, I mean, he was shouting, but like you could hear like the emotion in his voice there. Like I thought he was going to cry for a second when he like said that he'd believed in her, because she made us believe in her. And like, I felt for him there, and she just stood there the whole time. Like,
yeah,
I was just like, honey, like, why the defensive posture? Why the refusal to answer a very legitimate question? Like, maybe he could have chosen his time a minute later, you know, like waited until she was finished the thing, because like, let the other person get their question out. I can see, like, but at the same time, like,
I would have to say that was a perfect time, because how many times have I know we've covered it too, when, let's say, a Republican or corporate Democrat, this was before the 2018 midterm, where, you know, you had an activist or, you know, someone who's upset with their current representative or senator interrupt and say, hey, you know, you're doing this and I don't like it. You got into office for reasons X, Y, and Z, and you're not even doing them anymore. He had every right to be emotional and angry, because look, where was AOC was forced to vote? Where was AOC for the March for Medicare for All, or the General Strike Summit meeting, or even the early days of the Amazon labor union? Kind of radio silent, if not dismissive of it. And the thing is, she ran her 2018 campaign was, you got to raise the ruckus. These are her words. And look, we here at Heartlands Media, my words are this. Look, I want to see more independent media, and I believe in free speech. Okay, everyone has a right to speak their voice out. You have to be consistent with it, and you cannot be a hypocrite. And here, AOC, she's a politician. She's open to the same amount of criticism that she advocates for towards Republican candidates too, because where is she for forced to vote? I mean, where was she for Medicare for All? Where is she for all these other progressive issues? And yes, this is concerning, because we are on the brink of a nuclear war. I want to pull up this other video from Case Study QB. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. He's wrongly being censored, where Aaron Mate joins Tucker Carlson. So yes, while we're not a fan of Fox News, let's listen to the words, at least, of Aaron Mate and regards towards how, again, AOC was confronted.
So where are the real liberals? Where are the real progressives? Well, Aaron Mate seems like one of them. He works for the gray zone. He's on to this. He joins us tonight. Aaron Mate, thanks so much for coming on. So we don't spend a ton of time worrying about the state of the progressive movement, because I'm speaking for myself, not a progressive. But it would be nice to have an actual progressive stand up and point out that this is truly nuts. Where are they?
Look, Tucker, I'm someone who was very inspired by the squad when all of them first ran. I think all of them have shown courage, and I agree with the domestic policies that they supported, especially Medicare for All. And also, I'm a big fan of Chapo Trap House. I'm seeing their live show tomorrow. But right now, overall, the progressive movement, when it comes to the most important issue in the world, is dead. We have a proxy war against a nuclear armed power. The active U.S. policy, as Lloyd Austin made clear, is not to defend Ukraine. It's to weaken Russia. People like Lindsey Graham have said out loud that as long as we arm Ukraine, they will fight to the last person. And where are progressives on this? Every single time the Ukraine proxy wars come up for a vote, they voted in lockstep for it. Every single Democrat, including Bernie Sanders. Even as news has come out that the U.S. has sabotaged peace talks, even as Joe Biden, as you just played, openly says he won't negotiate with Russia to end this war, there is no force in Washington right now for sanity, calling for diplomacy, which I thought is what being a progressive is supposed to be about. Yeah. And you saw in that clip a very angry expression from those protesters feeling let down by their progressive elected representatives.
Yeah, I mean, if Marjorie Taylor Greene is more anti-war than Alex.
Okay, and let's be clear with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look, she is half in the bag. Absolutely crazy. And by the way, folks, you know, while she did go on the record of being against war, you know, she's also doing a lot of that insider trading too. Okay. A lot of these politicians are doing that. Okay. So before we, you know, start saying, look, I'll acknowledge if a politician's correct and called out the hypocrisy of, again, this ridiculous war that we're in. Remember, there are no heroes in Washington, D.C. They're all politicians, and all of them are scumbags. Your thoughts on it, Lauren, real quick?
I mean, yeah, they are. And we can throw up a defense of whoever. It's really easy. And Tucker has his own agenda, of course. But the fact that the Democrats are all actually for once in lockstep, as Mate said, like, that's frustrating, especially because, again, there's so many other things in our own backyard that we should be focusing on, that we should be taking care of. Like you said earlier, those guys had absolutely every right to be upset. They've been betrayed. They've been lied to. It's just, you know, and I appreciate him going on Tucker's show. Although I will say, it's just because you're not a progressive, Tucker, doesn't mean that, like, you can't be concerned with the progressive agenda. You should be. Like, I consider myself a progressive, like progressive in that very literal sense of the word, but I'm still very concerned with the conservative agenda and what they want to do, because I'm not that. You know, I think you'd want to be a little more concerned with what the opposition has to say, but that's about him. But it's just, she ran on very specific platforms, and now she is refusing to follow through, which, again, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, that seems to be what happens every single time. I don't know what her agenda is. I don't know what it is she is looking to do right now. I don't know if she is benefiting from the war in Ukraine. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes with her specifically, but it does concern me that she seems unwilling to even, like, mention that she's got questions.
Agreed. And again, look, at least here's the thing. Aaron Mate has done some phenomenal work, especially exposing war crimes. He's worked at the Gray Zone, has done he's an award-winning journalist. And here's the thing. At least look, like him or dislike him, Fox News, out of all the corporate media platforms, currently is the reigning champion. And at least if you're trying to get other people to see your perspective, I will give Tucker this, and this is as far as I'm willing to go. He's willing to give other people who will think differently than him a chance to speak on his show and educate his audience about what is really going on. From Jimmy Dore, Dr. Cornel West, Glenn Greenwald, Tulsi Gabbard, Aaron Mate, you know, I mean, at least they're able to speak out and really tell the people what is going on. Let's play the rest of the video.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she is, then we're an upside down world. Like, this is true craziness. Will this change, or is she in for as long as it takes too?
Well, look, a major problem in the Democratic Party has been the propaganda campaign known as Russiagate. For 6 years, Democrats have been taught to believe that Russia is an existential enemy that can brainwash millions of Americans into not supporting Hillary Clinton and swinging elections. And that now, accordingly, when it comes to this proxy war, that there's no point in negotiating with them, even though, by the way, Russiagate has been used to undermine a progressive agenda, not just being used to funnel billions of dollars into the military-industrial complex, but also has been used to sabotage progressive candidates. Remember Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders in 2016 came very close to winning the Democratic Party nomination. Hillary Clinton lost that race to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton responded by blaming Russia for everything and concocting a conspiracy theory that Trump was a Russian asset. Bernie Sanders, instead of calling that out, went along with it, and he was rewarded in 2020 when he was, surging in the primaries before Nevada. He was Russiagated. Some leaks were made that were accusing Russia of supporting him. So that's how the Democratic Party rewards even progressives who are loyal to their agenda. And if that doesn't wake them up, then maybe the increasing prospect of nuclear war should.
You would think. Aaron Mate, thank you for that.
Yeah, you would think. You would think.
I do like that look where you have Tucker Carlson, that confused look that he he gives his guests sometimes, because he's like, wow, I'm getting educated. Like when Jimmy Dore or Aaron Mate or Glenn Greenwald go on the show, at the end, I look like, wow.
I can't even make my forehead do that. Like, I can't make my.
But let's also acknowledge something else here too. And again, another video from Case Study QB, where again he's doing a lot of great work. Be sure to follow him on social media. One person's name who's also been dragged into this is Tulsi Gabbard, and she also showed up on Fox News as well. And the thing is, look, there's a lot of people that have been smearing her, especially in her 2020 campaign, calling her a Russian agent, an Assad apologist. She's a Republican insider running as third party. When she announced that she's leaving the Democratic Party, and on Joe Rogan's show, she said that I am an independent. After this video came out, now you have people, especially on TYT or Kyle Kalinske, saying, oh, well, this is Tulsi Gabbard's doing. Once again, turning Tulsi Gabbard into some Saturday morning cartoon villain when she's not in politics anymore. She's a private citizen. But she did go on Fox News to address this because, let's face it, she was in Congress when AOC was elected in 2018. So I just want to get her perspective on this, and I think it's important to hear her point of view as well.
Someone who was mentioned in those videos is Tulsi Gabbard, and she joins us now. What happened to AOC? And do you see that same kind of heat on the street when you go out and about the Ukraine war?
I don't know what happened to her or what she believes in, but I hope everyone was paying attention to what those two young men were saying and paying attention to the pain and the anguish and the fear and the concern that they were expressing to their representative in Congress. The fact that she was so dismissive of them points to the bigger problem in Washington. One of the main reasons why I left this Democratic Party of today is because they have become the party of war hawks. We are literally sitting on the precipice of nuclear disaster. You hear these young men saying nothing else matters if we are all destroyed in a nuclear war that President Biden and the Democratic leaders in Congress have led us into, and they are completely failing in their responsibility, the president's foremost responsibility, to keep us safe, to keep us free.
Are there any Democrats that come to mind right now that are asking tough questions about the war in Ukraine? I think mostly those questions come from the right. Well, what happened on the left?
Not a single one. And Jesse, if you'll remember that $40 billion funding package that went to Ukraine, the very big one in the beginning, there have obviously been many since, but in that one, there was not a single Democrat in the House or the Senate that voted against it. Not a single one. I believe there was a total of 66 Republicans in the House and the Senate. No Democrats. They have been absolutely silent. So these people are right. Where are the so-called progressives? Where are the peace champions, the AOCs, the Bernies, all the people who claim to be representing this movement? They're absolutely silent.
And again, look, from the earlier video that was on Tucker Carlson's show, Aaron Mate even mentioned Bernie Sanders' name, and he's in the Senate, and he, again, throughout his 2016 and 2020 primary campaigns, he was talking like, oh, we got to stop funding the military-industrial complex. Where is that Bernie? Look, this war is escalating even further and further to the point of diplomacy now needs to take place before we, dare I say, I think we've already crossed the line, but if we cross the line too far now, we are looking at a conflict which could potentially end the human species. I mean,
well, and if Biden won't even now talk about, now that Biden has, inserted himself into this conflict, and now we won't even talk to Putin about anything. But the problem is Putin is not, like, Russia's not doing great right now in the war. They're kind of losing. So that's going to put Putin in a corner. That's going to freak him out. And like, he's much more likely, if you've got someone cornered like that with, like, with all of the, everything we know about Putin, which honestly is probably less than we should, you can't put someone like that in a corner and not expect them to retaliate. So he is going to, like, I would not be at all surprised if he starts to feel like there is no way out. I wouldn't be surprised if he just said, screw it, and like pushed that big red metaphorical button. Like, it would not surprise me. I
hope that doesn't come to pass. But again, it looks like we have no one that's willing to take the initiative for peace talks, because I think now's the time for peace talks to take place before it goes too far. But I could hear everyone already typing in the comment section below, we've already gone too far. But I want to hold on to the audacity of hope, because then I'm an idealist, but usually it always comes back to bite me in the rear end. Let's hear a little bit more what Tulsi has to say, and we'll end the segment here.
And they are the ones leading us into nuclear war.
The protesters, you don't really see a lot of protesters on the street about the Ukraine situation. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because there are a lot of people in the mainstream media who are using the same parroted pro-war talking points the Democratic Party is using and not doing their job in raising important questions about how our taxpayer dollars are being used and what are the costs and consequences to the American people for these war hawks who are leading us into World War III.
You spoke recently about something, maybe it had something to do with your move away from the Democratic.
So we're going to end this segment here, but I just want to just have a final comment section on this, and that is, look, we've had politicians who've been profiting off of the military-industrial complex and big oil. We have politicians that are profiting off of this conflict as well. And now we're at a point of no return. And the thing is, we have every right to call out at least our progressive lawmakers who ran a campaign of being anti-war, fighting for progressive values, and, you know, stepping up to the two-party system. And we've seen that movement die out, get co-opted, or any talks of real change get buried. Lauren, I want to give you the final word for this segment, because the thing is, it's easy to see all these people quickly come to the aid of AOC, like TYT or Kyle Kalinske or corporate media or any AOC supporters. But the thing is, what has she done in regards to fighting for Medicare for all or student debt forgiveness, or saying that the Biden-Harris administration has been exceeding expectations? We've seen none of that. And we are on the precipice of a global conflict that could end us all within a matter of minutes. Lauren.
I mean, again, all I see from, you know, from AOC, from the squad, from like their Twitter pages, it's all just, it's positive information. It's, oh, we're doing this so well. We're doing this so great. Aren't we amazing? Pats on the back all around. And then when somebody has a legitimate concern, and so like, and we have reason to be concerned that, you know, we might actually end up in World War III. Like they've been, you know, testing it for like 8 years now or something.
The sequel we've all been waiting for.
Like, we've been waiting on tenterhooks for the World War III to begin for a long time, and now it actually seems to really be picking up speed and steamrolling. And I'm not going to fully just only blame the Democrats here, because this regime was not born out of a vacuum. It's been a long time coming for ages. You know, it was Trump and Clinton and Bush, and everybody has been pushing, and Obama too. Like this has been coming for a long time. It's not just this regime, it's not just this administration, and it's not just the Democrats' fault. So I don't want to just be only blaming them for the situation we find ourselves in, because as you said, there are people in, like, all of our politicians probably are getting something out of this that we are not seeing and that we do not get. So to have someone who is a progressive and who ran as a progressive refusing to answer a legitimate distress call, and she is like, and she billed herself as someone who was incredibly compassionate, and you know, she wanted everyone to believe, like, look how empathetic she is and how much she cares about the common person. And I went to go and visit the kids in cages and I cried. And it's like, you know what, at this point, did you? I don't know if I believe you, because this young man was almost crying too. He was upset and he is scared, and all he wanted was a yes or no answer. Even on the Twitter, like on his tweet that we saw later, it's like he still just wants a yes or no answer. Will you vote against war? And she won't give him a yes or no answer about if she's anti-war or not. And that is what concerns me.
Yeah, it should concern all of us. And unfortunately, Lauren, it looks like the people who we thought were our champions, the people who sold us the audacity of hope, were nothing but liars and no follow through, which is why I say, don't vote Democrat, don't vote Republican, vote independent, vote third party. And we got to build movements and organizations that are not connected to Washington, D.C., because no one from Washington, D.C. is going to help you. They don't. And AOC's body language is proof enough to my three-worded statement, not three-worded, but my statement in regards to how the politicians view you. They don't like
just-
you. They don't think about you, and they don't respect you. Go ahead, Lauren. Final
No,
word.
just like her whole, like, again, what you were saying about her body language, she just was so just leaning against the podium so carelessly, like hands, she was practically crossed. She wasn't quite, but she was like, I could tell she wanted to. It's like she wanted to have her arms crossed. It's, you know, she did not, she was like, this guy, and all she was like, you're being rude, so I'm not going to answer your legitimate question. And again, maybe he should have waited until she'd answered the question she was currently reading and then done it, because that way she at least couldn't have had that particular bullet to fire at him. But
yeah,
like, come on, I don't know what the question was.
Yeah.
So, and if it was something like pandering or something, I can see why he might have been annoyed by her deciding to answer that one instead of another. I don't know.
Agreed.
But
Agreed 100%. Well said, Lauren, and everyone, please take good care of yourselves.